dive right into the world of economics with the concept of the product probability frontier, or PPF. It's a fascinating concept that helps us understand how economies function and make decisions about resource allocation. Now, what exactly is the product probability frontier? In simple terms, the PPF illustrates the maximum amount of two goods that a country can produce, given the resources it has and the technology it uses. It's a graphical representation of an economy's production capacity, showing us the trade-offs and choices a country needs to make in its production process. Let's consider an example. Imagine a country that produces only two goods: cars and bikes. The PPF will display the maximum number of cars and bikes that the country can produce using its resources efficiently. If the country decides to produce more cars, it would have to cut back on the production of bikes due to limited resources. This trade-off is what the PPF visually represents, but it's not just about quantity. The shape of the PPF curve also tells us something important. A straight line indicates constant opportunity cost, meaning the trade-off between the two goods remains constant. However, in reality, most PPF curves are concave, indicating increasing opportunity costs. This means that as we produce more of one good, we give up increasingly more of the other good. So why is understanding the PPF important? Well, it helps countries make informed decisions about how to use their resources most efficiently to achieve the maximum output. It provides a visual guide to understanding the trade-offs and opportunity costs involved in the production process. In summary, the product probability frontier is a vital tool in economics, representing the maximum amount of goods a country can produce for a given output of the other good. It provides insights into the trade-offs and decisions that countries need to make to ensure the most efficient use of their resources. So, PPF is a tool that helps us understand the trade-offs in production possibilities. It's a concept that paves the way for deeper understanding of economic theories and principles. Let's continue to uncover these fascinating economic concepts together in the next segment. Scene script. Next up, let's demystify the concept of opportunity cost. Imagine a scenario where you're a student who has to make a choice: to dedicate your evening to studying or to attend a party. Sounds like a tough decision, right? Well, this is where the concept of opportunity cost comes into play. In economics, opportunity cost refers to the cost of foregoing the next best alternative when making a decision. It's essentially what you're giving up to do what you're doing. So, in our scenario, if you decide to study, your opportunity cost is the fun and enjoyment you could have experienced at the party. But opportunity cost isn't just about parties and studying. It's a crucial concept in economics that helps us understand the trade-offs involved in every decision we make. Consider a business that produces both smartphones and tablets. If it decides to produce more smartphones, the opportunity cost is the number of tablets that could have been produced with the same resources. This perspective helps businesses understand the real cost of their production decisions. Now, let's take this a step further and apply it to countries and their economies. Suppose country A can produce either 50 cars or 100 bicycles with its resources. If it opts to produce cars, the opportunity cost is the 100 bicycles it could have produced. This trade-off analysis is pivotal in decision-making at both micro and macroeconomic levels. Opportunity cost also helps us understand why we can't have everything we want. Resources are limited, but our desires are not. So we must make choices, and those choices come with costs. The opportunity costs. We can see opportunity cost at work in our daily lives too. Every time we choose one thing over another, whether it's deciding to cook dinner at home instead of eating out, or choosing to save money instead of making a purchase, we're weighing the opportunity costs. So, the next time you have a decision to make, consider what you're giving up. That's your opportunity cost. By understanding this, you can make more informed, rational decisions. Therefore, opportunity cost helps us understand the value of the next best alternative that we give up when we make a choice. Now let's delve into the concept of absolute advantage. Imagine two countries, let's call them country A and country B. Both of these countries produce two types of goods: wheat and rice. But here's the catch. Country A is able to produce more wheat than country B, given the same amount of resources. This is where we introduce the concept of absolute advantage. Absolute advantage is when a country can produce a good more efficiently than another country. It's not about who produces more overall, but rather who can produce more of a specific good with the same resources. In our scenario, country A has an absolute advantage in producing wheat because it can generate a larger output of wheat than country B, using the same amount of resources. This doesn't mean that country A is better at everything. Country B could have an absolute advantage in producing rice, for example. The key point to understand here is that absolute advantage is specific to the good being produced. It's about efficiency and productivity, not overall production volume. Remember, absolute advantage focuses on productivity. If country A can produce 50 bushels of wheat with the same resources it takes country B to produce 40 bushels, country A has an absolute advantage in wheat production. It's as simple as that. But what does this mean in practice? Well, it can influence global trade. Countries tend to specialize in producing goods where they have an absolute advantage. This leads to increased efficiency and productivity on a global scale. It's one of the reasons why certain countries are known for producing certain goods. To summarize, absolute advantage occurs when a country can produce more of a specific good using the same resources as another country. It's a key concept in understanding why countries produce and trade the goods they do. Thus, absolute advantage is about being able to produce more of a good using the same resources. Finally, let's explore the concept of comparative advantage. This idea is a cornerstone of international trade, and it's all about opportunity cost. Remember that? The cost of producing a good in terms of its best alternative use. So, when we say a country has a comparative advantage in producing a particular good, we mean it can produce that good at a lower opportunity cost than another country. Let's bring back our previous example of two countries, A and B. Country A is blessed with vast wheat fields, while country B's terrain is perfect for rice cultivation. Both countries can produce both goods, wheat and rice, but at different opportunity costs. Imagine that country A can produce a ton of wheat by giving up 2 tons of rice, while country B can produce the same amount of wheat by giving up just 1 ton of rice. In this scenario, country B has a comparative advantage in producing wheat because it has to give up less rice to produce the same amount of wheat compared to country A. Similarly, if country A can produce a ton of rice by giving up half a ton of wheat, while country B can produce the same amount of rice by giving up 2 tons of wheat, then country A has a comparative advantage in producing rice because it gives up less wheat to produce the same amount of rice compared to country B. Despite country B's absolute advantage in producing both goods, it benefits from specializing in the production of wheat, the good for which it has a comparative advantage, and trading with country A for rice. This is the magic of comparative advantage. It allows countries to specialize in what they do best, maximizing their productivity and fostering international trade. It's not about being the best at everything, but about knowing where you stand and making the most out of it. So, comparative advantage is about specializing in the production of a good for which the opportunity cost is lowest. Now that we've covered these key concepts, it's time for a quick review. We started with the Production Possibility Frontier, or PPF, which depicts the maximum output of goods a country can produce. It's like a boundary line that shows the trade-offs and choices an economy must make when deciding what to produce. Then, we delved into opportunity cost. Remember, this is the cost of producing a good in terms of its best alternative use. In other words, it's what you give up to get something else. It's a fundamental concept that underscores the idea of scarcity and choice in economics. Next, we explored absolute advantage. This is when a country can produce a good more efficiently than another country. It's not just about who produces more, but who does it better, faster, and with less resources. And finally, we examined comparative advantage. This is when a country has a lower opportunity cost of producing a good than another country. It's the reason behind why countries trade with each other, even when one country has an absolute advantage in all goods. Now let's test your understanding with some review questions. Imagine a scenario where one country can produce both bikes and cars more efficiently than another country. What is the opportunity cost of producing bikes in terms of cars? Think about it. And here's another one for you. Suppose two countries are producing wheat and corn. One country can produce both goods more efficiently, but it requires more resources to produce wheat than corn. Which country has the comparative advantage in wheat production? Mull over that one. Remember, these aren't just abstract concepts, they underpin many economic theories and principles. They help us understand why and how countries trade, how economies function, and how resources are allocated. So keep these concepts in mind. They're not just for passing exams, but for understanding the world better. Keep these concepts in mind as they form the foundation of many economic theories and principles.